Well, Patrick Macnee, I'm very happy to welcome you to Star Sound. You're as British as they come, very much the English gentleman, both on screen and off. But these days you live in California, so we're very lucky to catch you sort of between films, because your most recent movie is the latest James Bond, From a View to a Kill. In it you play Tibbet, a racehorse owner who is actually a secret agent on our side.
Welcome, sir. I'm Jenny Flex.
Of course you are.
I'll call a porter.
Oh, that won't be necessary. My man will take care of it.
Let me show you to your room.
Thank you. When you're ready, Tibbet.
Oh, my dear, I take it you spend quite a lot of time in the saddle.
Yes, I love an early morning ride.
Oh, I'm an early riser myself. Come along, Tibbet. Stop wheezing.
Well, don't stand there panting, Tibbet. Start the unpacking. Here, let me help.
Yes, sir. Oh, thank you, sir.
The reception is at 6.
Thank you, my dear. Oh, Tibbet, you heard what Miss Jenny Flex said. There is a reception at 6.
Yes, sir.
So I shall be needing a white jacket and a black tie.
Yes, sir.
And if possible, a clean shirt.
Yes, sir.
Oh, my Lord, Tibbet. Look at the state of my clothes. How on earth do you pack my bags?
Sorry, sir.
Well done, my good man.
Do we have to keep this up when we're alone?
A successful cover becomes almost second nature. What's all this business about Pegasus disappearing?
1 minute he's in his stall, the next night they're hiding a hair of him. We should look into it.
Well, don't you concern yourself with that.
There's the man I saw at the Pegasus stable. Another wealthy owner?
Who knows? But should certainly bear closer inspection.
We're on a mission.
It's the contrary. On a mission, I am expected to sacrifice myself.
Without giving away the best surprises, can you tell us a little bit about how you fit in?
Well, I believe that part was originally written as a jockey. And my dad was really quite a famous racehorse trainer. His name was Shrimp Macnee, believe it or not. He was about the height of this table. And I met Cubby Broccoli at the Del Mar races in California, where they have a song by Bing Crosby to start the day. And he looked at me and I looked at him. And we'd never met, but we knew each other largely from the fact that he'd filched Honor Blackman off us and put her in Goldfinger, at very short notice, I may say, which made us Avengers people very unhappy because we were about to go on to film, which was a great treat in those days from tape. And we had hoped Honor Blackman was coming with us. Not so. Cubby Broccoli put out his thing, fished her away, and she was gone, so we got Diana Rigg. But I think he must have thought racecourse, his father was a trainer, maybe. Anyway, eventually it worked out, and partly through my dear friend Roger Moore, I ended up playing Sir Geoffrey Tibbet. So how he got all the way from a jockey to Sir Geoffrey, and really a perfectly delightful and very funny part, was done largely, I think, through the good offices of Cubby Broccoli and Roger Moore. I'll tell you, the Bond people are famous for, and it comes from Broccoli, I think, of being, yes, about the most delightful group of people to work with, certainly in my lifetime.
Because to a limited extent, your career has had similarities with that of Roger Moore. I mean, you both became household names as a result of starring in television series, which resulted in both of you, to an extent, being typecast from then on as imperturbable English gentlemen, ready with a quick word as well as a quick decision. James Bond and John Steed of the Avengers also have quite a bit in common. I mean, did you ever have any interest in playing Bond yourself?
Chris Plummer always said that I should have done. 1, I was far too old. 2, I didn't have any interest. 3, I didn't even know who he was. 4, I hate those sort of books and would never read them. 5, Sean Connery was just stupendous in the part. And Roger, of course, is one of the best comedians, wits, and has put his own stamp completely on the part. I wouldn't even dream of even having been thought for it. On the other hand, Kingsley Amis, who's written a thing on Bond, spoke about the Steed character in television and said that he was the first of his type. And one did gather a sort of mystique, which I think it's like the Emperor's clothes. It's so ludicrous. You think up a character in 1960, literally out of your head through panic, because the producer's saying, for goodness sake, be more interesting. And it turns into something that people see over a 25-year period. It happened to coincide with the beginning of commercial television. It happened to coincide when people all watched television or were locked into television. I was extremely lucky. So the character's now got to the point where they're going to make a film of the Avengers, and they still want me to do it. And I said to the people who are going to do it yesterday, well, I've got to rethink the character. I mean, I can't be what people remember of Steed. I have to be because I thought it out 20 years ago. I now have to think out the man, if you're going to do it again, now, which I think is the most extraordinary thing about television. You can be Dixon of Dock Green till you're 80 and still on the beat, and dear old Jack Warner did just that. So I find, and hopefully have a sense of humour about it, and I'm delighted that people want me to be in these things. And yes, I think they become sort of cult creatures. I first met Roger Moore in a gym behind Cambridge Circus when we were all working out trying to develop our bodies. That was in 1948.
Did you all succeed?
Well, we got them a little better than they were, I think. But then we met again in the early days of when we were at Elstree. And in fact, at Elstree, they were extremely pompous. They used to put us, the Avengers, on a very back lot there, where every time an aeroplane went over, we had to stop shooting. And he was on some other one. They kept saying, oh, when features come in, you know, you'll have to move out. For 4 years, the Saint and the Avengers kept the English film industry alive. We're very proud of it.
Well, let us, for the moment, go back to Patrick Macnee when he was small. I believe your first experience of treading the boards was at prep school at the age of 8, playing Henry V.
Do you know?
An abridged version, surely.
No, it's interesting you say that, because I would have said that too. But my dear friend, 6'4" friend, Christopher Lee, who was in that production, played Mowbray, swore to me only the other day. He also revealed some other very interesting things about his character. I didn't realize that he did very secret intelligence work during the war and is a very brave man. But he said to me, yes, Patrick, you played Henry V uncut. So I'm now, at the age of 8, I hasten to add. So I go around and I say, oh, yes, I played Shakespeare's Henry V uncut. And it's the same way you say, well, I was a captain of my ship in 1940. What do you mean a captain of your ship? How old were you? Well, I was 19. Well, how could you be captain of your ship? Well, it was a very small ship. It was a motor torpedo boat, 71'6".
Did this, I mean, we most of us are in school plays,
Sure.
but we don't all become actors. But
No.
did this set your feet on the path?
Well, you know, I don't think it's that. I subscribe to the view that Glenda Jackson gives, that broken homes provide more actors, in fact, most creative artists. And I think when you're shoved about from pillar to post and put out here and put out there, or sent abroad, or denied access to one's parental love, you have to use it in other ways. And that's very much a case with me. And it was fully developed not only at Summerfield's, my prep school, but at Eton. And they were very creative people, and they encouraged us into this area. And apart from running a very successful betting shop at Eton, which I eventually got sacked, I really was into the arts in a big way.
You throw that away. I mean, now that is perfect timing. I mean, that's proper John Steed timing. You ran a betting shop and got sacked.
Yes, and flogged. And not necessarily in that order. But I'm very successful until I finally lost it all at Ascot, and it was disaster.
I think perhaps I won't ask you any more about that. Or we might
No,
be
that's
here
a
for-
very subterranean area, I can tell you.
Well, now, you started...
I can name names, but I won't. Right, on you go, sorry.
So, you went to drama school with the Douglas.
Yeah, for a very short time, for 9 months, and learnt absolutely nothing, not even how to cope with my diaphragm. Then, as it was the very beginning of the war, I answered an advertisement and went into a rep at Letchworth Garden City, a very chaste area for a repertory, and I stayed there. And then I was an understudy, general understudy, with Vivian Leigh in The Doctor's Dilemma at the Haymarket Theatre, and I came in because poor Cyril Cusack had an accident on St. Patrick's Day and fell down at Vivian Leigh's feet and was fired, and Peter Glenville was brought in, and I was his understudy. And then, this is 1942, and then I was called up to the Navy, and the understudy took over from me, was beaten up by a gang of thugs in the Haymarket, and Sir John Gielgud played the part better than anybody at 48 hours' notice. But then I was 5 years in the Navy, and then I came back again.
Well, that's sort of a lifetime encapsulated in a few words, and it all sounds absolutely marvellous.
Years ago, right. It's another world.
Does it feel like another world?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So does the war, thank goodness.
Do you think back to those days very much?
Very, very little. But no, whole other life. I thought my life was ruined at the age of 20 when I went in the Navy, when all the others, Michael Redgrave, James Mason, Dennis Price, Stuart Granger, were all becoming movie stars. The first test I did for a movie, I couldn't do it because I went in the Navy, and Stuart Granger played the part, Thursday's Child. Oh, I was a great star monkey. and most miserable. And I crept back in 1946 when I came out of the Navy, started all over again through the good offices of Tennant's and Kitty Black, and worked my way through and up and back, and then finally got a family, couldn't support them, emigrated to Canada, assisted passage, 1952, and became a star of Canadian television. But that was useless because there were only 80 sets in the whole continent, so nobody knew that I was a star of television alongside Christopher Plummer, Kate Reid, many other eminent Donald Sutherland Canadian actors. But well, I was always in the forefront of things, way before anybody cared.
But I went through a whole list of films that you were in
right.
sort of 10 years from when you came out of the army, and none of my reference books mention you as being sort of in
well,
it.
You know, I'll tell you who did, though. Cary Grant. I received a prize for doing Sleuth. It's called the Straw Hat Award, which is a particularly obscene award for travelling all around the United States in some play, which you do quite well. Anyway, I won this award, and it was presented at Jimmy's Restaurant in New York by Cary Grant, no less, in 1975. I took Dye Rig. I was terribly proud. And he introduced me, because he has a great sense of humour. He got a thing like you've got, a biography of what one had done, which I may say includes being an extra in Hamlet, goes on for all sorts of things. He read it out as though I'd played a leading part. Starred with Laurence Olivier in Hamlet, starred with his cousin David Niven in remake of The Scarlet Pimpernel, which I did. I was just one of the horsemen. Do you know, I had to go up afterwards, and Eileen Hurley was there, who also won an award, who played the Gertrude in Hamlet, and all these eminent people, and this great man had made me, by giving, all he had to do was read my biography, but pretend I'd starred in all these things, which, as you say, I had a very peripheral effect upon. Oh, it was the most embarrassing time I've ever had, because I had to refute all this, which was also funny.
Now, it's 57, was it, that you went to Hollywood and appeared in, and got named in, the MGM musical Les Girls?
That's right.
Now, how did the musical come about? I mean, I believe also Leslie Phillips was in it.
That's right, yes. I, in fact, read for a part in that Leslie Phillips eventually played, and I was living practically as a sort of derelict on Hollywood Boulevard in one of those hotels, about $15 a week, and I really was very scruffy, very depressed, and very broke, and I had to go to a room at MGM and read with Kay Kendall, who'd just finished Bell, Book and Candle with Rex Harrison, had the most beautiful mink coat and everything, and George Cukor was there, and I was sort of practically smelling. I was so awful. And I had to read this very sophisticated scene from Bell, Book and Candle, which I did so badly and could have done so well if I'd had the confidence. Leslie Phillips got it, which infuriated me. And they gave me this other part of whatever it was, a prosecuting counsel or something. I had rather good billing, but anyway, I was in it.
Did it have any lasting effect on your career to be in something of that size?
Yes,
after?
Because strangely enough, James Mason was doing a very big television show, and there was one other partner, only two people in it. Well, there was a woman, Faith Domergue, and James, and eventually myself. And I was suggested for it by the same agent, and I turned up. He said, but you're not the man, I thought. He wanted Leslie Phillips. He said, that man in Les Girls. And so something had happened, and I was there by mistake. Can you imagine starting a part with James Mason, directed by Louis Milestone, who directed all... Who am I telling? You know more about movies than I do. And being the wrong person. Thank God I was quite good in it. But, yes, it had a direct result in that respect.
Do you think that was the start of things?
Oh, in Hollywood?
Well...
Oh, the start of
Time,
everything.
shall we say, big
no,
time.
no. I've been big time in my own estimation since I was 17.
Of course.
Each little, yes. But you mean in terms of what might be looked on as success in public terms? Oh, no, I didn't make any success until the Avengers in 1960. I was walking down Piccadilly, and an ex-producer from Hollywood said, you're my producer. I said, of what? He said, I'm making a Western. I said, well, what's it about? He said, it's about Sir Winston Churchill. I said, what? In fact, he had got the war books of Sir Winston, and he was making them into a series, which turned out to be The Valiant Years. I was the associate producer. We had Richard Burton narrating it, and John Schlesinger directing it. I was enormously proud of it, and I was a producer. And one day, Sidney Newman, who was the head of ABC at that time, he was later the head of the BBC drama, and he said, do you want to be in a series over Christmas? I said, well, what is it? I don't think so. I'm a producer now, you know. And I was frightfully proud of myself, earning £50 a week. So he said, it's called The Avengers. I said, I don't know, I might. I'll do it for £300 a week. He said, what? You don't get that sort of money. Anyway, they gave me £150 a week, which was twice as much as they intended, because they thought it was for a fortnight, for an episode, you see. So, because I was so confident, because I was a producer, I got this marvellous part in this television series, which I thought was just over Christmas for 3 months. And 9 years later, I was still doing it. So, yes, I've called that success.
It wasn't quite the same, was it, when it started? It was you and
Ian Hendry.
Hendry.
Now, God bless him, dead.
And then the sort of switch of bringing in Honor Blackman.
Well, it was all done by expediency, which, of course, a great deal of our business, as you well know, is the reason for most things, for quite a lot of the things. In the first place, Ian left. Ian was a very, very brilliant man, and he burned himself out in a way, but he then became a movie star, and we were left with a gap and about 10 scripts written for Ian Hendry. And Sydney, who was a wonderful maverick, said, we'll have it as a woman. We'll have it a mixture of Margaret Mead, the anthropologist, and Margaret Bork-White, the photographer on Life magazine. That's what we'll have. But he hadn't got the money to change the scripts, so we thought of different girls, and Nari Dawn Porter, and lovely, lovely actresses, and then finally got Honor Blackman. But she had to do the scripts that had been written for Ian Hendry, so she got the idea of playing it very much as a sort of an aggressive person, and so it arose out of that. It all arose out of expediency. Then Honor left, and suddenly we went on to film, and we did tests and got Di Rigg, and she brought her own inimitable. I'm going to cavalcade with her soon, and we'll be, and her Cleopatra and everything at Chichester. She's a great, great actress. So I think those chance things brought it as a show which had an impact because of those sort of things. Then it sort of fell off later on.
Chance is very important, isn't it?
Don't you think so? Oh.
While you were doing the Avengers, also working in the theatre or going to the States?
It's interesting you say that. Towards the end, I was offered Girl in My Soup, Not Now, Darling, various plays. And I got into a sort of, I think you do in television, you get so into those awful hours, and I didn't think I could, and I should have done. Then I made a dreadful mistake in 1969, when really I was doing pretty well here. I went back to California again, where I've been ever since, which in terms of life was good, because my daughter's an asthmatic and it helps her out there. But in terms of career, I should have stayed here. I'm now a sort of, I'm a journeyman actor. I could have been much, much big, much more success. I could have played sleuth in London. I could have done many things. I don't regret them, but I would have been much more successful. You use the word success. So I would say I was successful in the 60s, and I've gone down ever since. But strange enough, I'm pretty happy.
Now, you've been doing, to some extent, what I think is a marvellous idea, the sort of cameo appearances here and there, different things, which, you can go into sort of fun films then without minding that they are really trivial films. There was, for instance, a sort of poor man's American version of Carry On Doctor called Young Doctors in Love.
Oh, that's awful. Do you know, in that, I did a week's work on that. I was in Australia doing a mammoth miniseries, which you will see this month for the term His Natural Life in Australia. It's on the BBC. And they said, he's got a week off. If you star him, he'll be in it. I ended up with one line, which I'm not going to say what it is, because I don't think you can say it on the air. And it is so embarrassing. Very funny film, though.
Are you a waitress? No, I'm a prostitute. I just wear these to turn on the guys.
How far along is she?
Well, she doesn't know exactly, but she's huge.
All right, young lady. You'll have a beautiful baby in no time.
I don't think so, Doctor.
What? What are you talking about?
Hysterical pregnancy. She wants the straight life so badly that she's convinced herself she's pregnant.
Doctor, this girl is in heavy labor.
It's just not so, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
What happened? Was that a balloon?
Next. Poor kid.
I never knew it was possible for a medical doctor to be so unfeeling.
Sounds to me like you're falling in love with him.
I'm glad he didn't say the line that I'd thought of there, but yes, anyway, we'll pass that one over.
One that I thought was great fun, perhaps it wasn't such fun to you, but that was The Howling.
Yes.
Splendid movie. All of you, I think you included, turned into werewolves.
That's right. I didn't even know what a werewolf was, and I went into a shop and said, I want to know something about werewolves. They said, we've just got a book in called Werewolf, which was very handy to me, as you know. Yes, directed by Joe Dante, who did Gremlins, as you know, the following year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought The Howling was very good, didn't you? I mean, in that sort of feel, it had a sense of humour. It was quite extraordinary. They did no camera tricks. All that was done by young Rob Bottin. And that big love scene in the redwoods there by those two kids when turning into 10-foot werewolves was done literally by putting makeup on step by step. And it was quite incredible.
It was a very good film, I do agree with you. And what else have you done that we can be seeing?
Well, you see, I could run through some titles which I hoped would never see the light of day, but due to cable do, and they range from Sweet 16, The Creature Wasn't Nice, Hot Touch, directed by Roger Vadim, his last film, actually rather good, about art forgery. And finally, this is Spinal Tap. Have you seen that one?
Oh, yes, I enjoyed that. It was great fun.
Directed by Carl Reiner's son, Rob Reiner, and for which I was paid an extraordinary small fee, but the promise of quite large points. So, yes, I've been very lucky in being in these strange, interesting, progressive films, and I have a sneaking feeling it is because I come cheap. No, I make money on commercials, so I like to act for the pleasure of it, and not for the money.
Well, that's what I feel. I mean, you're keeping very much up to date, the awful phrase, with it, aren't you? I mean, who knows, any moment you could be in something that would really be, the greatest film since sliced bread.
I love the way you put it. Well, I shall hold on to that and keep my fingers crossed.
And what is this about continuing with the Avengers? Is it another series or is it a film?
Well, somebody came out, they were going to do another series, I think, with two younger people, and with myself as sort of elder statesman. And I think they now want to do a film of it, yes, and I think they probably will. People love serials. They love to wonder what's going to happen next. I noticed even on Wallenberg, they had to finish it with what will happen to him next and all that. I think people are fascinated, and if you have the good fortune to remain alive and survive to a point where they can still use you, at least this is my theory, people seem to be interested. It's like wanting to know the end of a story. What happened to him at the end of all that?
Well, we want to thank you very much for coming and joining us and being so frank and so lovely.